my name's Arlene at Roots to Fruits. I'm here with
Auguste from She Goes To.
Yes. So we're here today because you've just quit your job. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I've been thinking about quitting my job for like a long time, and but I never had the courage to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, this year for 2022, I'm going on an adventure. Like there's no better time to do this and go traveling for at least 3 months.
That's exciting. Okay, so you're going for 3 months. You just quit your job. Where are you going?
So you might know because I had this dream of doing a yoga teacher's course in India, because it's probably like the most authentic place to do it. So why not? And also these yoga teacher courses, like they're so expensive here in London. Even going to India, paying for flight tickets, paying for a course, accommodation and food is cheaper than doing it in London. So that's like the best thing that you can do if you want to learn. So,
and it's more authentic. You're going there. That's so exciting. So we actually sat down, didn't we, in January when you decided to do this and talk about how to afford to do that. So did you look into how much that will cost to go to India?
Yeah, so actually the course itself is not too expensive. It's around $1,200, $300, which is even cheaper in pounds. It's around £1,000, which is very cheap for a yoga course. Then flight tickets are around 500. You can find them cheaper, so depending on when you're going, like if you're taking a direct flight, if there are any stops in between, so you can find cheaper and more expensive flights. So in total it's not going to be too expensive, like around 1,500 for the flights and the course.
Yes.
Actually, like at first the idea was for me to travel using all of my savings that I was saving for a few years now, and but then I had an idea of why can't I save just for this trip, like in 3 months that I have before like we actually leave.
I love that.
I approached Roots to Fruits for a professional consultation.
I love that, because the first thing with Roots to Fruits financial wellness, the first thing is if you can save a bit more and not tap into your emergency fund, that's the best way to do it. So I'm really glad that this is what you've decided to do. So in terms of first steps, the first thing was looking at how much you need to save. So everything that you've mentioned, from the flights, the course, how much that costs, and everything else that you're going to do after the yoga course. And you mentioned you just want to have fun and you don't want to think about your expenses.
When you're researching your travel expenses online, it can be as cheap as you want. Like it can be very cheap with traveling in Asia, but I don't want to just travel for the sake of traveling. I really want to experience the place, maybe stay at some like nicer hotels as well, do some activities as well. So I don't want it to be like a very strict budget trip, because I just want to enjoy myself a bit, because that's why I quit my job, because I just want to have fun, clear my head, and just enjoy
the experience. And it's 3 months as well, so it wasn't ever going to be cheap, but I'm glad that you're being mindful about your finances whilst you do this.
So after doing all of my homework that you gave me, with the research, like researching the costs and all the expenses for the activities and places that I want to visit, because I haven't mentioned, but I also want to go to Thailand and Bali, and everything is opening up right now, so it's good news. So after doing all this research and activities, so I think accommodation will be like one of the main costs. But also activities, if we want to do like a free diving course in Bali, it will also cost like a certain amount. So so yeah, just after putting everything that I want to do and all the like low estimate and high estimate of the expenses, because it can be very cheap, but if you want a bit more luxury experiences, it can be a bit more expensive. Yeah. So as you taught me, I took the higher estimate, and it came to around 6,300 for the whole trip, more or less, and also you told me to always take the high estimate and maybe even overestimate.
Add a buffer.
Yes. for all the unexpected things that might happen. So I decided on a goal of £7,000 that I want to save in 3 months.
In 3 months, very ambitious savings challenge. But also, I'm glad that you took in those buffers, so thought about what else you might need. But yeah, really ambitious to save that in 3 months.
But at first, I thought I might need like £10,000.
Yes.
So that was a bit of a relief when I did the exercise, actually.
Already having an expense template and the savings template meant that you could identify how much you needed to save, which is less than you thought in this first place, which is fantastic. So
I'm glad I already did this step, because I never do this for my trips, because I just I'll just go there and I'll have fun. And then I come back and then I need to pay off my Amex for everything that I spent. So that was like a really nice exercise that I've never done before a trip, and I think I should do more often.
Which is good, and it means that you're not stressed out whilst you're on holiday, that money is running out. Actually, it's not as that budgeting is seen as a negative thing, as though it's restricting you. Actually, you could research loads of ideas of stuff to do beforehand and freely budget for it, so you know you're going to have a good time, but you can also afford it, so which is brilliant.
And I can also include it in my trip planning process, because I always do my research, and when I start on Pinterest, just looking at the nice images of places I want to go, I put all the dots on my maps, and and then so that's my process. And I have kind of a rough idea of where I'm gonna go, where I'm gonna start, and whether we're gonna take a train or fly there, or take rent a bike or whatever.
I've seen your content, and it looks like so much fun. So it makes sense.
So it's a nice bit to add to my trip planning process. Just to kind of plan in advance and then not be surprised by the prices when you actually get there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so you've got £7,000 to save and 3 months to go.
Yes.
What was your next step?
So another piece of homework that you gave me was your budget planner template.
Yes.
That was also the first time that I did this exercise, actually looking at my finances, because I always thought that I'm quite good with finances, and I'm not bad with my finances, but I never actually sat down and looked at what I'm spending money on, what can I live without, and what are my fixed expenses, what do you call it, variable expenses.
Yeah, I'll add a link that explains the budget template and how we can sit down and do all that in a little bit more detail. But high level, we sat down and we talked about reviewing your income, your salary, anything that comes in, maybe if you have dividends, or some people rent out a room, so any income that is coming in, it needs to go on that template. And we talked about the fixed expenses, as you mentioned, and that is more your rent, utilities, anything that's fixed and you have to pay back, or paying back debt as well, mortgages and everything else, those are fixed. And then it was the variable expenses, and I think that was the interesting one for you. Have a look at where your money is going in terms of food, for example, traveling. So variable expenses are expenses that you don't have to it's not fixed. You don't have to actually spend that money, but it's more of and it varies from month to month. And then there's also a fun extras. So I hope you appreciated the fun extras.
All the massages and Deliveroo.
So yes, how did you find that process? Because it's been a month now, and you filled out like your first month's budget template. How did that go?
Yeah, so as you say, the most interesting bit was the variable expenses, where I realized I'm spending so much money on hair care and skincare. I think that's my sister's influence. Buying all the fancy creams and serums. And
Yes.
so I looked at variable expenses and where I'm spending most of my money, and one thing that stood out the most was all the crypto investments, all the Bitcoin purchases, hair care, skincare.
Yes.
There was something else. Massages.
Yes.
Deliveroo. So we had a couple of Deliveroo orders that came to maybe like £100.
Yeah.
It's like 2 dinners.
Yes.
So you can easily live without it.
Without thinking about it, you could easily spend so much as you said, because it feels like a nice treat. But actually, if you're trying to budget and save a little bit more, that's when it looks like, okay, this is one easy area that I can pinpoint to try and find some savings. So that exercise, you sat down, had a look at your bank statement, and then put all these expenses into the budget template, which is brilliant because now you know where your money is going, which a lot of people can't do. So good for you for doing that.
And it was really, really good to also do this exercise. And when I was doing it, I was looking at all the fixed expenses as well, and then dividing them by 2, because we are basically sharing everything with Ritas. And so our mortgage, our bills, all the subscriptions like Netflix, we're dividing everything by 2. And I think that's why, as you mentioned, that it's really important to sit down and do it together with your partner. If you have a partner, to do it together, just look at your finances and see where you're at and where you're spending. And
it's one of those key subjects. So glad that you could do that and really pinpoint where money is going. So that's good. So in terms of the savings target, we've got £7,000 to save in 3 months, but actually you realize that there's 4 paychecks to go, so that makes it a bit easier.
I'm so glad that we had the first conversation in January, so I had an additional paycheck to take into account.
Which is good. So the earlier you can decide to get a trip and start saving, the better. Because you have longer to save for it. So that works out to be, was it £1,100 per month that you need to save?
Yeah, so that's with my savings that I already saved before, because I already started thinking about it maybe in November or October. So I already started putting money away. So I already had 2,600 I think saved. So that really helped when we were looking at how much do I need to save for the rest for each month until April. So otherwise it would have been 1,700
per month,
50,
which is a lot of money.
It's a lot. I think it's doable, but then you have to be very rigid.
And strict.
So I still want to enjoy my life.
So you managed to save the full 1,100?
No. So I was messaging you yesterday. So I came to, I think, 950. I think so, a bit under. But that was because in January I had a lot of things like COVID tests when we were traveling, because we were coming back to London from Lithuania. So that was an additional expense. And then the fact that I did all these Bitcoin purchases before we started the exercise.
And January disease, to be fair. January is a very long month.
It's a long month,
So it's understandable.
But I think it's good because now, in February is much shorter month. Already, we are now 2 weeks in February. So now like I've already looked at my spendings this month, and it's much lower compared to last month. So I think I will be able to compensate for January and save even more this month.
That's brilliant.
So what really helped me as well was your 4S's framework that you shared with me.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what are 4S's
What
and what does it stand for?
Yes, so Roots to Fruits has the 4S saving framework, which is something that's really helped me save over time. I remember when I was saving to buy a house, these key points really helped. So the first one is to set a goal. You already have a goal to go traveling for a few months. Tick.
Yes.
And the second one is to set up a standing order. And the reason for that is that if you have a standing order, it means that you've set up an automatic way for your bank to transfer money from your main account, your current account, for example, into your savings account. So this can be done on the day that you get paid, because if you try to save at the end of the month, it's all gone. But if you save on the day that you get paid, that means that it's already been ring fenced. And now it's 2022, we can just make sure everything is automated. So that's the second one.
I haven't done this.
Yeah, yet.
Okay, I think I'll be forced to do it for March.
Because we already know how much you need to save in February. So if you set up that standing order for 3 months, because you already know how long you want to save for. And then the next step is to have separate pots. The reason for this is if you have one big savings account where you've saved for buying a car or emergency fund, buying utensils, and also to travel, that means that you can't really identify how much you've saved for a specific thing. So we discussed setting up a separate pot.
Yes. So I've done that in my Monzo account. You can set up a separate pot.
Yeah.
I think it's also called pots. Yeah. So I named it India trip. Now I think I'm gonna rename it to Asia trip.
Yeah.
So so that's where I've been putting all of my savings before when I just started thinking about it.
Yeah.
And now in like last month in January I just transferred whatever was left of my after all my spendings.
But next month will be the other way around. That's good. And the last S is to stick to the plan. And this is important because you have set a plan initially, did all the homework, and then the next thing you can do is just to stick to the plan, because failing to plan is planning to fail. So it's really important to actually stick to the plan so you can be really proud of yourself at the end of the goal. However, I'll caveat it with, yes, maybe in January you didn't achieve the full amount, but just give yourself grace. As you said, in February, you're planning to kind of rectify that. So I think that's also important, because Roots to Fruits is all about financial well-being. So you don't want to stress yourself out because of finances.
Just being compassionate to yourself.
Yes. So how did you find saving in January?
So after I did your homework that you gave me, I straight away identified things that I can live without and I can like cut completely, because obviously fixed expenses, they are always there, but with variable expenses like crypto and skincare and massages, like they're nice, but when I go to Thailand I can have them every other day, so and it's much cheaper there. So straight away I identified things that I can live without. And also with grocery shopping, like we're always shopping at Tesco's. We don't really plan that much, like we just go there and then just buy whatever we think. So I think maybe like a bit more planning
ahead of time.
And then meal planning, just like buying things more in advance for like longer periods of time, rather than going to a supermarket every day and just buying things for dinner, because you always buy like some additional things that you that you don't really need, and especially if you go hungry, then you buy so much stuff that you don't need, and like so many snacks.
As you mentioned, that's why it's good to plan bulk buy as well.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you have any more tips that can make my budget go even further,
Yes.
like with saving.
Yes, and as you mentioned, the first place to have a look at are within the variable expenses and also the fun extras, as you mentioned, maybe the massages. You can stop that for just for a few months and then pick it up later. And with fun extras as well, there's certain things that you probably don't need to spend on in the next few months. And I think the main tips that I would give are, first thing was to review your expenses so you know what you're spending your money on. The second thing is, okay, start maybe comparing prices. There's price comparison websites that you can review, maybe even utilities. The price of energy is going up now, so maybe try and find ways that you can make that go further. Cluttering your bank account. So
What does that mean?
it means just have a bit of a minimalistic view in terms of your variable expenses. So cut out the takeout and spending on going out for certain reasons. So just for the few months, maybe cut that back. And also you can declutter it by having a look at the subscriptions that any
Disney Plus.
Plus.
I had to go.
But you can maybe find ways of getting it, a trial here and there. So look into that. Also any memberships that you might have that you might want to cut out just for a few months. That's another way, because we've got so many, gym memberships, different types of memberships that perhaps you can tone back. We mentioned decluttering, so maybe in terms of the food buying, so it's more meal preps on a weekend rather than buying it on a day-to-day basis. That's another way that you could try and save some money. But the key thing, I think, is reviewing price comparison websites for certain things like insurance and utilities. Other ways to save are from conscious buying. So I don't know about you, I get loads of adverts that come through on Instagram, for example, when I'm scrolling, or someone recommends skin products, hair products, without realizing how many you actually have in your bathroom. So by conscious buying, it means that you actually think about what you're going to buy, maybe take a week out to research what it is that you need, or do you actually need those items before buying them. Finish the last bottle of, hair products and then buy the next one. So that's what I mean by conscious buying. So actually take some time to think about what you're buying, because then that could save you that extra £50 that will get you to the goal.
If you take the time to think about it, you might realize that you don't even need
exactly.
it.
Most times that's what then happens. Yes. And the last tip is to maybe fix anything rather than buy new stuff. And also maybe think about where money is going in terms of equipment as well. You've got loads of film equipment. So is it a good idea to buy a new item, or actually just use the one that you have, or fix it or tweak it in a way that will work out?
I remember when the first time we were talking about this video and Rita said, I need another light.
I need another light, I need another camera, I need another microphone. But no, actually we can make do with what we have. So that's all about being conscious about where your money is going so you can save. But in a way that's not too strict, and where you don't feel like budgeting is so negative, but more like just be conscious about where your money is going.
It's like you're not living in this like scarcity mindset, but you're like being like more conscious and mindful about things that you're buying and spending
Exactly. So that's my philosophy. It's not about making it a hard task. It's actually working with what you have. So that's what Roots to Fruits is about.
And like I wanted really to share the feeling that I first had before we even started this exercise. Like when you just gave me the homework, I felt so uncomfortable. So I never done this budgeting exercise before, and I felt like, okay, like this is so uncomfortable. Like I need to look at my finances, at all my spending. Like probably I won't have enough money to save for this, and I feel like it feels really bad.
And
but then,
vulnerable as well.
Yeah. And then when I did this exercise, it made me like feel so much more like empowered.
Yay! Yes.
Because like when I looked at my finances and budget and all the expenses, like it kind of gave me like courage that like, okay, like I can do this, and like it's not as bad as I thought. And I can actually save for this trip. I don't need to take from my savings, and I can actually do this if I have a plan with your help. And actually stick to it, and you've been a very good accountability partner for me. Because every time we talk, like you always have your notes. Okay, so so you're gonna do this. You said this on 21st.
Always have the notebook. So how's that going?
So there's no way like not to stick to the plan.
But it's rebranding, you know. It's rebranding the whole budgeting and the whole, you know, sticking to a plan or accountability. It's not a negative thing, actually. It's more of giving you the tools to be able to succeed, so you can go off and have a good time. It's actually giving you the tools. So I'm really glad that's the feedback.
Thank you.